Well, hello guys, and glad to have you on board again. Today, the time has come and the propositions are now live. Therefore, I've made that promise back then that I will fully cover those ADAM 2.0 stuff and the white paper, very complex stuff, that I would cover them in due course. And I've plainly chosen to delay that action the most I could. The reason was plain simple. Before the actual first version of this white paper 2.0 was released almost a month ago at the Cosmoverse conference, there's been a lot of noise since then, and the voices coming against this proposal, or at least this white paper, were kind of numerous, and to be honest, I was among those who thought this was eventually a bit too ambitious on some ends. So I'll try to explain everything in that video, but most importantly, I'll try to remain as objective as possible, trying to cover both angles, knowing that the second one, and we'll explain a bit more about that into that video, is one that will come later. So first promise that I can make 100% chances is that there will be a second part of that video to cover the opposing thoughts, which we'll discuss in a later stage. But anyway, I said that before we get even a single vote around these topics, I would like to cover this white paper in due course. Now the time has come, because this white paper has just suffered its first revision and is now proposed to vote. Though I will put a big pause to that and take the appropriate amount of time so you guys understand what these votes are all about. So there are two of them. There is the proposal 81 and 82. 81 is more of a conventional constitutional type of vote, which introduces a few rules, which means there is not going to be any change to tokenomics or inflation or governance process or constitutional changes until we get a 2/3 of all staked ADAM voters to say yes. So this is something, that's what we call supermajority, and I would like to say this is already starting to be a controversial vote. We're already at 8% turnout. Let me just actualize that page to just have a look at this. So 10% in, and it's still a large no, or actually a significant share of no with veto. We'll see all about that. I personally don't entirely disagree with things that are in here. They're kind of a safety guard net to say that if we don't get a 2/3 majority, then nothing will change. And I would say that we need to take some time to work around these Cosmos 2.0 vision before we actually rush a proposal. Sorry about that. So this is really what this is all about. I still haven't made my mind around this proposal particularly, but I think I'm inclined to eventually vote yes. I would say we don't have to rush. Certainly there is a ticking time bomb behind us because the market in general is evolving, and therefore stagnation is a problem for any crypto project. But rushing conclusions when there is absolute need for discussion and democratic debate, I would say this is kind of a prerequisite that we're not going to get any forced proposal activation ahead of ADAM 2.0. We've got plenty of time for this, and most importantly, I think whatever we do here is just setting the direction. So we just need to settle all together, discuss, compromise until we figure out a definitive direction to head to, because that's the number one thing that we're going to have to talk about. There is no immediate conclusion to this thing. It's just something that's gonna go on for more than a year. The thing is just we need to agree now on where we're headed next, and we're gonna start building up to, okay? So there's no immediate stuff like we're gonna change on day one and we're gonna just slash inflation or whatever. All of these things have been pulled out of the white paper, actually. This is where I had major concerns. The financial immediate proposition of financial application of these systems before we eventually even discuss if the system is the right way to go. So that's one thing which I very much thank the initial proposer, which are the ones that you know, the Ethan Bachman and the Zaki Manian, who's been very active around this ADAM 2.0 stuff. But like I said, there were lots of controversy on the financial propositions on what to put these things into motion and how, which in my personal opinion should be considered in a step 2 environment, which means if we can first agree on the direction, then we can talk about the financial application of these models through time, how to slash inflation, how to do this and that. Okay, so that comes in a second hand. Right now, the votes we're talking about are these two. The first one is settling ground for how much vote do we want to make sure that we got enough security. I personally haven't yet made my mind 100%, but I think I'm going to vote yes. And of course, you guys can do whatever it is that you want. Understand the risks and rewards. In here, asking for supermajority gives guarantees that nothing is rushed too quickly. And on the second hand, it also risks for immobility, which means if for whatever reason someone is trying to block that vote by not getting supermajority, well, we're going to have a problem because no action is going to be a problem in this ecosystem. Other ones are moving and they're moving fast. So there is a need for a move, but rushing too quickly without proper discussion of a decentralized ecosystem would be a danger to me. So yeah, I'm kind of not necessarily making my choice for this one. Okay, number 82 anyway is where most of our attention is today, because I made the promise that I would uncover this white paper for you. That's an ecosystem that I know very well much about, not being pretentious to say that I know everything, but I know, I think, enough to stand in front of you guys today and explain what this thing is all about, because it has been hell of a complicated system. The Atom 2.0 version, at least the one that is defended by a group of people, among which are the Zakimanian, Jackson, Pauline, lots of Cosmos heads, but there is of course no such a thing as just a single vision for this. And that's very, very important for us to understand, is that this is one video that if you haven't seen it already, you're really going to have to pause that video and have a look at this one first. So it was absolutely envisioning to me because I knew a lot about the Atom 2.0 version and I had some concerns. They have been removed since then, and today is going to be all about explaining how this thing works so that you can make a vote on due course with the knowledge required to make a significant vote. But I didn't know so much about the version defended by Jaquan and its Atom 1 that would eventually make the use of a second token called Photon to remain decentralized and apolitical in terms of Atom. So this is where we're going to make a second video about, to explain everything there is to know about this Atom 1 vision, because to put it plain and simple, these are the two visions that we're going to have to fight each other in order to find some common grounds. The Atom 2.0 is complex, and this is why we're explaining it today. Atom 1 probably is as well, but we're going to save this one for later. Today's vote is about whether or not you accept the vision of Cosmos 2.0. That doesn't mean we're going to switch tomorrow. It's going to take a long time to get there. What they're requiring is your approval or rejections of the propositions Atom 2.0 is willing to put in stake, which I'm going to explain today. So let's jump right in, okay? The big debate is still to come. Okay, what we do today is not explain how Cosmos is going to be a year from now, is explaining the vision of those behind Atom 2.0 have put it into this very well crafted white paper, and we're going to try making rational versions of it because it is complex and lots of people didn't really understand how it works, which I'm going to try doing today. It's going to be long. I promise I'll do as quick as possible, but gosh, it's going to be a 1 hour long video. I doubt I can make it any faster. Alright, so here's the big thing. So it is already on a version 1.2, which means it's been updated as of late, and most of my personal concerns, like I said, the financial application of those models have been removed. So concretely, there is no more any mention of we're going to cut inflation by this and we're going to print that many tokens for these things or whatever. So all of those concerns have been removed. Today is only about approving the development angle. This thing is going to work on a several number of technical stacks, and these are the things we're going to talk about today, okay? TLDR as well, there is a lot of political changes for the Cosmos Hub. It's very much a very, very deep change for Cosmos, and I think this is probably the #1 factor Jaquan is fighting against, is this political movement that the Cosmos Hub is facing now. So it is definitely going to require a lot of discussion to see if we are collectively willing to do this, or in which amplitude we're willing to, because to be honest, it is very, very political now. I think that the opposite version that is defended right now by Jaquan, which is willing to get the Cosmos Hub as politically neutral as possible, it's really the crucial vote in which I think we're going to have to find some general common ground in a decentralized way, because I think we can't remain politically neutral forever, but I think going full political today might not necessarily be the wisest choice either. So we're going to have to find some common grounds into this. Of course, I'll explain this as we go in because it is a bit more complicated. All right, so let's jump right in. I'll do the TLDR. You have to read that thing yourself because what I'm going to be doing today is a simple explanation of the core functionalities that might be misunderstood or less understood in a general big scheme of things. This thing have been covered already a shit ton of time in YouTube, and they have been scratching the surface correctly. So I generally tend to say that information in the ecosystem general, in crypto ecosystem, is full of shit. It isn't the case for Cosmos. So I would say lots of videos right now I've got in depth enough to explain what this thing do clearly. So what we're going to do today is not talking about that. I'm going to talk about the grand scheme of things. How did these things were crafted, in what purpose, and how do they interact with each other? Because that is the only thing that I haven't seen out there, in which I'm willing to put an angle on too. So plain simple, this is what it is, okay? This is what they're proposing. We're gonna get a multi-layer integration of tech stacks by the number of 4, and there are significant changes to the naming as well. So from now on, first political implication of the Cosmos of Layer 2.0 is that we're gonna have to change the naming. Right now, the Cosmos ecosystem is going to be anything application-specific blockchain or protocol deployed on these app-specific blockchains or whatever that has a direct implication with the Cosmos Hub itself through one of its many forms, which will be known as interchain scheduler, allocator, staking rewards on liquid staking, and interchain security. So this is one of the 4th way that blockchains may interact with the Cosmos Hub, each of them having their independent shaded gray areas, meaning that interchain security has multiple forms. There are going to be V1, V2, and V3. V1 being very rigid, meaning that you take it all or you don't take it. And it's more likely going to be a proof of concept that this thing works, kind of a public working beta for early projects that have high interest of alignment with the Cosmos Hub and that are going to rent the whole thing on. In that perspective, these projects are already known. They are known by being, for example, the Gravity Bridge, which is going to use interchain security to secure the bridge with the Cosmos Hub atoms. There's going to be a lot of other projects who's going to use it, either in V1 or later stage in V2 and stuff like that. V3 is the more composable version of it, meaning that you can basically freely use whichever portion of the Cosmos Hub you want or whatever. This is like full freedom of shared security. That's the beautiful vision that is heavily defended lately by Sunny Agarwal, which is Osmo's head, and in that basically saying that mesh security, in which we're going to have significant contribution in the overall ecosystem in a much more complicated manner than just shared security V1. So that's the TLDR. I think interchain security has been fairly covered out there very well, by the way, so I suggest you have a look at those videos if you want to know more about that. But understand TLDR in here is that there is a shaded gray level of implication with shared security that's going to be V1 doesn't give that much security and doesn't give that much composability, and further down the road we're going to get even more until we get shared security V3, which is total freedom of use cases. Interchain scheduler is going to be a very interesting one. I'm going to talk about that one. It's easy to understand as well. I think it's very well documented already, just like interchain security. But this one is very easy to understand in terms of economic model. The interchain allocator is where most of the noise is, and in my personal opinion, will be. It's where we're going to get a lots of assumptions to make in order to find common grounds, because this is where there's the highest level of risk with the least guarantees of rewards. But that doesn't mean things won't change. But in the overall grand scheme of things, okay, any project that will use either one of these 4, more or less, because like we stated, all of them have kind of an horizontal gradient on how much you use it, okay? But as long as you use any of those 4 in any shaded gray level, you will be in the Cosmos ecosystem. Anything outside of this, meaning any project, application-specific stuff, which is using the Cosmos SDK, IBC relaying, and the Tendermint core, basically aka the Cosmos stack, will be called the interchain. So basically, if you don't use the Cosmos Hub on whichever those 4 ways it is, you are no longer in the Cosmos ecosystem, you are in the interchain. You use the Cosmos stack, you can customize it to whatever the fuck you want, but you're no longer in the Cosmos ecosystem unless you have a direct or indirect link with the Cosmos ecosystem, which is going to be linked to the Cosmos Hub economically and or politically. We'll see all about that later. Though this is where most of our attention is, because, like I said, what we proposed in this Atom 2.0 white paper is basically explaining how those 4 things interact all together. So, like I said, I'm not going to go into too much details on how these things work themselves. Just going to scratch the surface and let you get your documentation on it. What I'm going to spend most of my time doing is let you understand how fucking smart it is to put these things together in that order. What I like is that, well, if you just read it, you will say, wow, but boy, this is overcomplicated. Couldn't we just slash the atom inflation and get rich? Well, I don't think so. And that's what I always loved with atom guys. They are breaking the lines. They're breaking the boundaries and limits. They're trying to go further and further and further. Okay? So let's understand and just give it a bit of a time to let that sink in, because it is fucking smart. Is it going to change the future? I don't know. But like I said, from now on, I think this is one of the most complex stuff that I've seen, and ambitious stuff. We'll see if that's too ambitious. It might be. But in the overall crafting of this thing, it's very smart on multiple ways. First one, I don't like anything that is a triad, okay? For many, many reasons. I have like models that says these things just generally don't stand. That's, for example, what we know, the blockchain trilemma. You will always favor 2 at the sacrifice of 1. One of the oldest possible way of thing is fucking threesome. I mean, so many people fantasize over threesomes. Whoever tested it knows it always ends up 2 and 1. It's never working. No one has ever successfully, over time, made a successful threesome. So, Jesus fuck, blockchain trilemma, threesome or whatever it is, it doesn't work, okay? It always ends up 2 versus 1. So, it'd rather like to say, if you're going to end up 2 versus 1, the fuck is it to try bringing the 3 together? It wouldn't make sense. So in my personal opinion, if we had a 3 set of things, I would say automatically 1 is going to be deteriorated and the other 2 will take on the economic activity. So having a 4 gang kind of makes it sustainable. What I like in 4 gangs then is to have double implication, meaning that normally there's going to be synergy between 2 things. And what I like is that there's going to be horizontal synergies as well. Okay, so this is how you get the most solid stuff, meaning the interchain scheduler, or whichever it is that would have been in that spot, have to have some kind of relationship or similarities, synergies with the interchain securities right below it, just like it has to have some similarities in the crafting and designs of the interchain allocator. And we'll explain everything, okay? So it's very simple, actually. The vertical integration, interchain scheduler, and interchain security relationship is pretty easy to understand. They are very technical and immediately activated stuff, which have an immediate economic counterparty, which means when you use the interchain scheduler, you can mathematically, or it is complex, of course, these are complex economic stuff, but you can basically immediately understand that there's going to be financial reward. Whenever someone uses the interchain scheduler, one way or the other, it's going to accrue value to the Atom token. Interchain security, pretty much the same. It scales horizontally in its use cases, and it's virtually integrated in the Atom's value. So these 2 things, they've been very, very well explained in multiple YouTube videos, so I'll invite you to have a look at them. Smart way to extract value where there is value. These are value proposals that have already been proven right in other ecosystems. Interchain scheduler, TLDR, it's an MEV extractor. Though this is very smart, it's a multi-chain MEV extractor, very smart. I can definitely say that there will be use cases for this, as long as there are blockchains in this hub environment. Okay, so this is really what's going to be about. If there is an Cosmos ecosystem, though People using this Cosmos Hub specific tech stack and using the interchain scheduler, the more they are, the more useful it gets. So there is vertical integration and extraction of value. As long as these things get broadly used, the more value gets accrued. Same thing for interchain security. The more people use that security, either fully or using V2, V3, etc., will bring and accrue direct value to atom holders. This is an easy to understand business model. This is why I would use this kind of purple or light purple color to say these are immediately value accrual proportional to the use. The more they used immediately gets to accrue value. The orangish kind of yellowish color, I can hardly say which one of those two it is, basically is more indirect value accrual. These ones are like, it's introducing risks. These ones, they don't take any risk. They get used, they get paid. These ones, they get used, but they introduce risk. They can get paid eventually, but this is more of a risk-reward interesting story, okay? Here, there's no risk. The only risk is no one uses it. Okay, so it's net value accrual positive. I definitely think it worked because, like we said, MEV, just look at how crazy is the discussion on Ethereum's MEV today. So using this and trying to capture that value very smartly, I'll let you have a look at how interchain scheduler works. It's very, 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 very smart to extract MEV in a positive way in a multi-chain environment. Interchain security, boy, I mean, just look at Polkadot. Polkadot is sharing its security and it's a proven model. It's been working very efficiently. Though in here, we're in permission security model, which means nothing here is full forced upon your head. You use it if you want to. So this is what I have always said. This is the path of least resistance. If there is ever shared security model, it has to be on a permissioned manner. You choose whether or not you want to be in it. So whether you want to be part of the Cosmos ecosystem, whether you use interchain security or any of the other things, is one way to go. If you don't, well, you're in the interchain, folks. That doesn't mean you can't use Tendermint, IBC relays, and the tech Cosmos stacks. Basically, you're just in the interchain. You do whatever the fuck you want with it, you can customize it, and you are free to use it. The rest is Cosmos-related activity, and you can use many of these different gradients. Okay, so this is what we need to understand. This is immediate value accrual directly proportional to the use cases. It's just a matter of how much use it is. So the money we spent building the interchain scheduler and the interchain security is going to provide rewards at no cost only if people use it. And I definitely see that there are use cases for these two, but in here, like we said, it's just a matter of rewards. There are very much no risks with this. This can't destroy the atom value. This can do it. This is why it has a different color to me. Interchain allocator, we're going to spend a lot of time on this one because this is where there's been a lot of debate, as well as the liquid staking. They definitely both come with risks. And this is where this thing has vertical and horizontal integration. There is no risks, but no guarantee of reward, but if it is useful or not, and I definitely think these are. So this is where, in my personal opinion, we could have made an entire white paper with just these two. I would have been like pleased to say, well, you're taking MEV, there's definitely some money to make out there, and if you can extract it in a smart way and permissioned way, that's very smart. Same thing for interchain security. Renting security is very much proven to be effective. So yeah, there is value to gather out there, and do it in a permission manner is even better. Okay, so that's one thing, all right? And then this is like, I would say, the cherry on top of the cake. This would have been more than enough. I'll take that cake. And I definitely think that just with these two, we could slash inflation and have a sustainable long-term business model. But where I like is that they've chosen to take some risks by using the interchain allocator and liquid staking as an option. This is where there's going to be a lot of debate because, like I said, they could have built a three-gang stuff by just using liquid staking and not the interchain allocator, though this is the reason why I will spend a lot of time, because people talk a lot about the interchain allocator. They don't understand that if there is no interchain allocator, then we're in a three-gang party, and that means liquid staking will probably fail. I would say that I kind of agree with that. My personal assumption is that if allocator for whatever reason isn't in the white paper in its final version, I think liquid staking is going to fail for atoms. We're going to stick with these two. where a lot of value will accrue, and it will work just fine. But this will be a waste of time to try liquid staking the atom in the ecosystem. It only works to me if we get the interchain allocator to compensate. These two have very complex interactions that people didn't really grasp so far. So we're 24 minutes in, folks, and I haven't even started to explain what this thing does. I just talked all along to explain you how smartly crafted it is in terms of architecture, okay? It doesn't work if one of these things simply don't match. This is where the value accrual guarantee is. This will be there in the final white paper. I'm 100% sure it will. This is a big question mark, and this is where a lot of debate will be. But in my personal opinion, if we take one out, the second will fail. So this is going to be a waste of time to spend liquid staking, money on liquid staking and stuff like that if there's no interchain allocator. Because this is the vertical allocation of it. This is where risk is taken to bring additional reward to the Cosmos Hub and therefore the atom holder. This is where the atom holder takes no risks, and we'll probably all agree that this has to be in the white paper. So this is the guaranteed stuff. This is the risk-taking stuff where lots of debate will be. So carefully crafting these will be essential. All right, that's it. And what is the horizontal alignment? Well, this is where there's something new. Back then, we had a Cosmos stack that was basically free to use. Everyone can take on the stack, customize, copy, make it public or not. We've seen some problems around that as well. And the thing is that there's going to be secure economic scaling for the interchain, meaning that any of these can be used by anyone, either the Cosmos ecosystem, so some way aligned with the Cosmos Hub, or anyone who will like to compete with the Cosmos Hub. Yes, because providing security and liquid staking can be done by other chains. And guess what? You can be damn sure that this will happen later down the road. I've always said it. The thing with the Cosmos Hub and Cosmos in general is that they are untied, and this is what makes their forces. The Cosmos Hub is a proof of concept that the tech stack can work. And over time, I've always said there will be multiple hubs, and it's not even guaranteed that the Cosmos Hub will be the main one. It will be for a limited amount of time, or eventually at a later stage if it keeps upgrading itself to the standards. But at some point, if some other competitor just goes faster and better, it will take over. We're talking about multi-economic incentive. For now, there's going to be the Cosmos ecosystem and the rest. You can be damn sure that the interchain will sooner or later find its way into competing with Atom. First, it will be minor, and then it will eventually grow, and eventually in the future, it will take over. And in that perspective, a bigger economic zone will take over, taking on the Atom, for example. Atom, which will be the Cosmos ecosystem, which is probably the first of, I think in the future, many ecosystems with different political alignments. And this is where lots of people have criticized the fact that the Cosmos V2 version is very political. But like I said, I think it's inevitable. It's going to happen. So you can delay it, you can try to fight against it, but it's going to happen. Though, yeah, like I said, there will be multiple political alignments in the future and people will be able to choose, but for now, there's only one, and that's the direction the Cosmos 2 is taking. We'll explain a bit more about that. And the horizontal differentiation comes that for now on, there will be hub-specific functionality. The interchain scheduler and allocator will be hub-specific. Okay? We're in an app chain environment, meaning that any app chain can use interchain security and liquid staking for its own app chain. These are publicly available modules of the Cosmos SDK tech stack. Interchain scheduler and allocator will be hub specific. Very, very important. And the first hub ever is going to be the Cosmos Hub. Like I said, I think in the future there will be multiple hubs competing for innovation and stuff like that. But for now, there's only one. It is a proof of concept. This is Atom 2.0. Okay, so they're hub-specific horizontal alignment. The interchain scheduler and allocator are hub-specific. And the interchain security and liquid staking can be copied by anyone. There is vertical integration between those two in a sense that the interchain scheduler and interchain security have similar business model on just different market shares. The interchain allocator and liquid staking have different types of integration in the way that they introduce risks for the token holder and they're supposed to bring more value to compensate for the risk. So this is the cherry on top of the cake. Now that you know this, we can start going into the nitty-gritty details of it. So interchain security, like we said, I'm going to pass on this one. It's been very well explained. Interchain scheduler, pretty much as well. It's still complex to understand, but it's been well crafted already. So it is a multi-chain MEV extractor, TLDR. Have a look at all the videos that detail that in greater detail if you want to understand all the nitty-gritty details. Interchain allocator, we're going to talk a lot about this, and integrating liquid staking as well. So let's start with these two. All right, so the liquid staking of Atom. Number one critics on this model, and I definitely agree with that. Liquid staking isn't without risk taking. Using a liquid staked representation of a token means there is a third-party risks, and it is code. This is basically, we have multiple solutions, because of course competition is going to be required. We've got Stride, we've got Lido, which is going to be a liquid staking solution built by Lido Finance. There's also Quick Server and lots of other options, but in that perspective, they will compete for the same thing, providing liquid staking services to the rest of the ecosystem. Then in that perspective, you've got the liquid representation of your token, which is introducing the risk of slashing, because for whatever reason, if you put that ST Atom in whichever other part of the ecosystem, like for example, you're gonna liquid stake it in agoric pools or whatever it is that's gonna be making use of that collateral Atom value, then if for whatever reason it is badly used, I don't know, pools can get emptied or hacks can happen, this brings external risks to the Atom. For now on, the only risks Atom has is that it depends on whoever you're delegating to, and if that person is malicious actor or not. Most of validators are not there to be malicious, so risk is pretty much close to zero. It's just try to delegate to rational actors in the ecosystem, and, well, the risk is close to zero. As long as they don't try to scam the market, there will be no slashing, and basically nothing can destroy your Atom. You're getting rewards over time, and that's it. Liquid staking is going to introduce another set of risks, but what I like with the liquid staking is that it is user dependent. No one forces you to use liquid staking, and to be honest, I personally don't intend to use it in the early stages. I'd like to see the proof of concept and to see this economy of liquid staking providing more rewards than risks, because for now, all I see is that I could use my ST Atoms or whatever other version and representation of state Atoms could be, and I could be like, yeah, but I don't know, code hack or whatever idle stuff it is, and bang, I get fucked, my Atoms are lost. I don't want to do this. Like I said, until I've seen how this economy works, I'm just going to be in observation mode in early stage, because I'm more of a risk-free investor. Of course, those who are risk-on investor might be willing to take those additional risks to get more rewards. They will get the same staking rewards as I do, but they will get the liquid staked Atom rewards on top of it. It's a double win. So I would understand that, but it introduces risk taking, and it has to be very well understood. The risk is certainly not going to be zero, okay? So I understand, and particularly the purists of Atom, specifically the Jake ones and the like, say this is absolute nonsense to collateralize risks and so on. I understand. But this is a choose from the investor to investor basis. No one forces you to liquid stake. You do if you want. That's really one important thing. This is a user-specific feature, okay? Very, very important to understand. It introduces risks, but on a user-to-user basis. No one forces you to liquid stake. This is just one of many options to get a cherry on top of a cake. If you're willing to think that it's worth it, take that risk. If you think the rewards doesn't worth the risks, then wait, either for this ecosystem to develop itself or to just be pointless in the end. But I think in here we have a choice, and that means, well, if I have a choice, whether I use it or not is not my business to say we don't have to get there. I think it's on a user-to-user basis. Offering the possibilities is always good. So I would say liquid staking has to be tested. Is it going to succeed or fail? I don't know. But all I know is that if for whatever reason liquid stake doesn't work, in the Cosmos ecosystem, it doesn't take off, well, I can tell you for sure that the interchain allocator is going to fail as well. That's one thing I know for sure. Okay, if one fails, its other ganger will fail as well. Okay, that's really one thing. Though this is for liquid staking, it has to be understood that it definitely introduces risks, but it introduces risks on a user-to-user basis. No one forces you to use that. You do what you want. Okay? So that's for liquid staking. The second thing, boy, we're going to take a lot of time talking about that. Where are you, Treasury? Yeah, you're lower than that. Here we go. Okay, so of course there are more details to understand the full grasp of this thing. I'm just gonna go over what I've seen to be very much less taken care of on other channels. So here's what I took away from the interchain allocator to understand the full reality of it. I'll also have to debunk some of the full of shit kind of covers that I've seen out there of people who don't know any fucking thing about economics and say things out loud. So number one, scratching the surface of the bullshit that is spread out there. The Adams Treasury is going to dilute the stakeholders. Well, not so much. Actually, if you understand the system, you will see that there is no value dilution. The only thing that there is risk for rewards. That's the same thing. This is what I have to explain so that you understand that dilution is just full of shit to scare people out. So here's what this is all about. TLDR about the Treasury. It's much more complicated than that, but just scratching the surface in here will understand how this dilution bullshit is no more than that. Okay? So what this thing is that we're going to use an hub-specific feature, which is going to be called the Treasury, which is going to be able to be deployed as a module on chains that will decide whether or not they want to include that module, also knowing that they can't make use of that module but the Cosmos Hub, okay? This is an hub-specific feature in the first stages. It works only with the Cosmos Hub. At a later stage, it might work with other hubs than the Cosmos Hub ones, but for now, it's going to be hub specific, okay? So this is what this is all about. There's going to be, though, interchain allocator will create a treasury with their tokens, and there will be other chains that will exchange value through their own treasury models against the most valuable one, which is normally the hub one. So the hub basically shares value of its high staked value token versus a chain that is asking for kind of collateral or whatever. What the chain will do with the treasury is not defined 100% yet. These are features to come. So once again, the risks comes from the utility. The utility of the treasury is still very, very much in the shadows now. And I've seen people making outrageously stupid conclusions when we don't even know yet what these things do. And from the little we know for now, it's not that dangerous at all. So let's explain and debunk the risks of this. So dilution risks, no shit, Sherlock, absolutely stupid. Dilution comes whenever a token gets to hit the liquid supply, meaning that it can be sold, okay? Though in that perspective, the atoms that will be exchanged against coin X in those treasury alignments, this is code, okay? So this will be coded according to some things that both chains agreed upon. This will make use of the covenant module and the rebalancer module. Basically, the covenant will be establishing multilateral agreement. This is basically no more than treasury smart contract management. In that perspective, this is establishing a set of fucking rules that will make aligned decisions based on code, so no one will have surprise. The risk in here can be measured. It's just whether or not you're willing to take those risks, but it's all established on day one. This is code is low, folks. I don't see anything bad in here. It's just a matter of this is a powerful tool, but if used correctly, and of course, it's going to bring more rewards than risks. This is really all about that. This is not where the bigger problem is. The rebalancer is probably no more than one of those functions that will allow automatically managing asset portfolios with the public liquidity that is stored in those treasuries. So if you just pull those things together, you will understand that basically the treasury will have aligned code rules that will say, I have coin X on one chain, I have Atom on other chains. And basically, we're going to define a set of rules in which we can use, for example, the rebalancer, and to say each and every quarter, we're going to rebalance the technical alignments value of these things. To say, for example, in here, you've got $100,000 of Atom value. You're going to give us a $1,000 value of coin X, and we're going to rebalance that thing on a quarterly or semesterly or annually basis, basically pure and simple. So using that model, do you dilute the value? Do you dilute the value? No, you don't. You basically have a collateral, which means if the guy which you send the atoms to decide to sell, which we'll see can be absolutely forbidden in the treasury agreement, meaning that for so whatever reason, we can say that chain X will never be able to send IBC connection to, for example, an exchange or whatsoever. It's going to be permission stuff. The code will define what we do or what we can or can't do with those tokens, okay? And any modification to the interchain allocator has to be signed by both parties. So this is a bilateral agreement stuff. This is nothing more than that. This is not just one token being stolen by the other so it can do whatever the fuck it wants. It makes no sense. This is the usual type of stuff. So what is this thing designed to do? To do bilateral agreement because it was more than needed. Remember the previous video we've made on the Cosmos ecosystem, saying that this weird shit stuff of no one is asking anything in return has created this very... this is a one-of-a-kind economy in which basically people have been airdropping significant value to token holders. It wasn't written anywhere. There was no contract saying, okay, we're going to give you some tokens, you're going to build something, and you're going to give us your token back. This is basically what this thing is meant to be doing. We're going to eventually lend you some money with conditions and requirements to have a bilateral agreement. So you can just run away without tokens. You can just spend them however the fuck you want. If you spend them, you're going to have to ask us, for example, or some other complex stuff. This is really some smart way to create airdrop systems. We needed to change that airdrop system on Atom. This is the airdrop system. That doesn't mean it has to happen with 20% of the Atom tokens in the Cosmos Hub. This has been removed from the white paper. This was my #1 critic. The fuck, 20%? Out loud, outrageously, immediately? No, not necessarily. We might want to go easy on that one. But is it a smart way to use that technology which the Treasury is meant to be? I definitely think we need that. If Atom is willing to act as a fund, which these guys who crafted the white paper wanted, they took inspiration from NATO and other types of bilateral agreement, which is no more than a win-win. We agree on a set of rules, we vote, and once they're voted, some code will enforce those rules over time. If we want to change those rules, we need to sit at the table again, make a proposal, and this proposal have to be voted on both chains, otherwise the agreement gets nulled. This is really what this is all about. If for whatever reason, the contract says if whatever chain does this with this thing, which is called an enforcement of the contract, then the contract is removed, the atoms are sent back, the coin X are sent back, and we terminate the agreement. Fuck you. You didn't really do what we want you to do. So in that perspective, the bilateral agreement is nulled. So once again, is it diluting the value? It isn't. Because the equivalent amount of value is either brought by code, which is no more than the future estimated return on value, or an immediate collateral guarantee, which is basically do something wrong and we're going to take our tokens back. This is just the smartest possible way to align value incentive in an ecosystem, and we need that. Once again, it's all permissioned, which means it has to be agreed on both ends. This is not just one taking on the other. It is a win-win strategy. If we can both win from that bilateral agreement, how the fuck wouldn't we do it? If this is for the lose-lose end, then in that perspective, of course, this is going to be diluting value. If we lend Atom tokens without counterparty and whatsoever, and if for whatever reason Chain X does bullshit with those atoms, yes, we just lost 20% of the Atom value. Otherwise, boys, just read. It's pure shit to say that 20% token is going to dilute the value because those tokens are collateralized by code. And they have value associated with them. So we don't dilute. We just change the game. It doesn't dilute the value of Atom, unless for those who don't understand anything about economics. Dilution is creating liability without counterparties, which is not the case in here. There will be full of counterparties. It's actually just all about that. So really, this is what this is all about. I'm sorry to say it, but those who cried out loud for this thing are absolutely bullshitters, okay? There's going to be a lot of different implication and a lot of implications for this to happen. The Treasury is going to make use of a covenant AMM, which can act as a secured third party to regulate the financial activity if there are some swaps that needs to be made and so on. These are things that will be coded. This is just nothing close to dilution. This is collateralized or contractualized agreements between two parties. And this is a very smart way to do things, in my personal opinion. The only thing that you have to understand is that previously we've explained the vertical integration that there is between liquid staking and interchain allocator. The difference between the two is that they both, the same thing between the two is that they both introduce risk. Okay, liquid staking means you have double the risk because the risk of staking is close to zero unless you choose a malicious validator. The risk of liquid staking is definitely adding some risks, but it is a spice that you decide how much you want to in your personal plate, and you can actually choose, I don't want any of it. The interchain allocator is something that is forced upon you because this treasury is at a blockchain level. You can't say, well, no, I don't want the interchain allocator, okay? So it is, you vote for it or not. What matters in here is that this is collective risk-taking. What matters with the interchain allocator is not whether we want it or not, because like we stated, if this one is refused, this one will never work. Just like if liquid staking for whatever reason isn't used, this one will probably fail as well. And like I said, I think we need this. If we want to, further down the road, have a rational bilateral agreement to forget about these fucking airdrop things, which are not sustainable as the ecosystem grows to a critical level. To be sustainable, adding value, though with risk-taking, I think we need an interchain allocator. The only question in here is, are we going to make good use of the risk we take to provide rewards? That's all that matters. And in the interchain allocator, all of the critics, and I definitely agree with them, is that we create a lot of political implication in the Cosmos Hub. TLDR in here, there's going to be a lot of political-like type of alignments. Let me just switch to that part of the thing. It's going to be in here. It's just slightly lower. Where is it? Okay, here it is. Okay, there's going to be the creation of different political layers within the Cosmos ecosystem. Basically in here, I'll explain the good and the bad about this thing. This is no more than just the natural and organic way of societies have been orchestrating themselves over time, because basically chaos or free movement can be done if just, for example, 50 people live on an island. I mean, just look at the beach, for example. It works pretty much fine as long as we don't have too many people living all together. If we get a critical level of like you go over 100% living together, it immediately, naturally and organically creates a separation in the system. There's going to starting to be some leaders to organize some of the global decision. It generally is made through a conventional democratic type of way, which means the leader is consulting the other ones before making critical decisions. Okay. Then now if you switch on over to 10,000 people living together, it's not even possible to have a single leader, even democratic or whatever. It generally means that the leader has to have some sub-represented, some sub-layers of people gathering information so that they can relay to the leader to try making the best decision, which we will try to enforce through the help of these kind of relayers. They are just interlayers to relay information and knowledge. And in that perspective, well, this is exactly what they're proposing. They say in order to have that interchain allocator working correctly, at scale, we're going to have add layers. And for those layers, there will be the Interchain Council, the Consensus Council, all of these things. These are to orchestrate the hub, okay? But understand that there will be the same type of organization as well in the Interchain Allocator. The Interchain Allocator will be defined pre-selection of different projects based by a top layer of executives in the Cosmos ecosystem, who have a general knowledge and understanding of these things at a critical level enough to make significant allocation proposals, which will be relayed to some kind of a second layer of users and finally agreed upon by us stakers in the bottom. So this is once again a democratic way of system, which means we have representatives who are making kind of early stages draft proposal, which are written down and passed down to the lower layers, which craft them in details, basically making the code of those bilateral agreements. And later, in the end, us stakers get to vote. So this is the same old thing. This is how societies work and orchestrate in the most possible democratic form. So this is probably not perfect because it never can be. As these things scale, just like societies of human beings scale, they need some form of organization. And if we can just look at the human evolution, we will see that every society always opted for that system of a top-down approach, of a bottom-to-top approach. Basically, the bottom always keeps the voting right, meaning that no one will force upon you the thing that you don't want. But the thing is that this is collective risk-taking, meaning that in some societies, people may disagree on something, but they get forced to adopt it because the vast majority of others agree upon that. So this is the critical stuff. Okay, remember that liquid staking is all about you choose what you want, and you have a horizontal cursor which you can place. If you want to take big risks, big APY on risky pools with unbalanced tokens or whatever, go there. If you want to take absolute no risk, I don't want to give a fuck about liquid staking, I don't want to use it at all, you can do it as well. This is on a personal-to-personal basis. This isn't. This is a global decision made collectively by democratic allocation of capital. But, of course, like we stated, these proposals can't be drafted if they're not by the top. So this is really, I understand the concerns of censorship, meaning that the leaders will do just like every society ever did, which means basically they will start to be corrupt, favoring their friends, and so on. I understand all those problems that can emerge over time. But for now, we have to understand that we need that bilateral agreement. What we can agree upon is not to give it eventually 20% stake of atoms, which is something that has been taken away from this Whitepaper 2.0 version 1.2. So basically now all of these 20% allocation to the treasury or whatever has been put out entirely. So this vote on the proposal number 92 is not about whether or not you want a 20% allocation of the treasury or whatever. The vote is basically all about one thing. Do you want the Cosmos Hub teams to work on that? If you want that, like we said, this is probably 100% guaranteed to be in there. The vote is more, in my personal opinion, do you think this worth the time to build? Like we said, I definitely think that Atom 2.0 with this is going to be making enough money to destroy the inflation of the token, to pull it near zero. The question is, do we need that? In my personal decision, I would like to say I probably will vote for this, but I will carefully look at the risks we take, and particularly the ones we take collectively. Okay? This, like I said, I probably won't use it in the early stages, probably at later stages when this economy will have matured, but I think both of them have an interesting longer-term interest. This is the cherry on top of the cake. We can definitely do fine with the cake. The question is, do we want to add a collective and individual risk layer to the Cosmos Hub, which, to be honest, I think the critics who disagree with that are not entirely wrong. I understand that. This is where I think a lot of debate have to happen. But in my personal opinion, I think that we need that cherry on top of the cake, because the worst is probably we'll never make any use of it. Like we stated, as long as we do not have forced and enforced feeding of the treasury, which was there in the V1 and is no longer there in the V1.2, as long as we have a stop to put to this if it goes into the wrong direction, I think that as long as we can limit the risk, the collective risk particularly, and let people decide for this is a question mark to me. But that doesn't mean we just have to destroy it like it is the danger. The danger is where projects have to go to mature. So my personal vision for this Cosmos Hub 2.0 is that there's certainly more than enough core elements to bring enough value in to destroy inflation or put it right back down to zero, because it's absolutely necessary. Every inflation in every project on the crypto ecosystem has to be brought down to the standards of being close to zero, otherwise they will not succeed. Okay? That, I think, interchain scheduler, interchain security will bring enough collateral value to suppress inflation over time. It's not going to be instantaneous, and we are collectively going to have to adjust that upon the revenue stream that comes from these two. As much money comes from this, the more we can reduce inflation proportionally. How much and for whatever reason, we're going to have to decide that. It's been pulled out of this white paper. This white paper is now no longer on how do we apply those things in the real world, but do we actually agree on going that direction or not? I would say everyone agrees with that. The question is, do you agree with that? I would personally say those who succeed in life are those who take risks. But those who take tremendous amounts of risks by the hope of a tremendous reward are those same ones who definitely fail. So it's all about guarantees. And my vision as a professional risk manager on the Cosmos Hub 2.0 is I like risk-taking. I think it's necessary, as long as it's well managed and well handled and well crafted, which pass by just one core element, which is the essence of what I do for years in here to talk to people, trying to let them understand how fucking risk management works, is knowledge. If you know how this thing works, if we know where we're going, that's generally the most important step toward taking risks. If you understand the risks you take, you can fly your way when it goes wrong. And that's all there is to me in that project. I agree with it as long as we have sufficient guarantees that too much risk isn't taken on our behalf. So I think interchain allocator needs a very much a lot of attention. That's the reason why I would like to see this proposal being discussed in every bit of detail so that we can entail a maximum risk limitation to these things. So that in the worst case scenario, we never use them. We still have tremendous value on Atom 2.0. I think current discussion around that thing are so often misplaced to the fact that if we introduce them, we're going to destroy Atom. I don't ever think this is going to happen. I think they are just, in the worst case scenario, a waste of time to build. In the best case scenario, a pretty nice cherry on top of a nice cake. That's all there is to know. I think I've done what I had to do to let you understand the nitty-gritty details of Proposal 81 and Proposal 82. Proposal 81 is adding a guarantee that we'll get a supermajority by also introducing the risk that if for whatever reason we can't reach consensus up to a supermajority, we could actually see nothing happening. So there is a bit of danger with this thing. It is adding some security that things will not be rushed, but it also could turn out to be immobilism if nothing passes because we fail to get that supermajority. So this doesn't come without risk-taking. This is just whether or not you think the vision is okay. I'm not going to let you know what I will personally vote, but I think I have transparency enough that you probably know by now what I'm going to vote. So do your own research. Like I said, all of the modules, I haven't been talking about what they do exactly. What I've done is let you understand what I think very much needed global understanding of what this thing is structured for. Because there is definitely a vision for this. And I think too many people have been talking about the needy details of this, not necessarily taking the time to fully and appropriately say how very smartly crafted this thing is. The horizontal and vertical integration that there is on these different modules, I know that there are some smart people who've been thinking about that. What will make use of this, like I said, there are two sides of that equation. A more guaranteed risk reversion of it, which will only be scaled to their use cases. The more they use, the more value they'll accrue. The other part is risk-taking to bring additional revenue. I think we need it, but that's my personal choice. You decide whether or not you think we need it. That being said, I wish you guys a pleasant day and a pleasant vote. Bye-bye.